So I'm kind of going to wing a talk here today. I have just am going through a breakup. I'm about to move out of my house. And as I am in a 2-year teacher training program, it seems always eerily fitting the topic that is being taught on any given month and how it applies to the life that I'm living, what's happening in my life. There's a lot of synchronicities. And this month's topic has been on grief and loss and change and impermanence, and boy, is that relevant right now. So I'm gonna give my best at just kind of some thoughts on change and how we can face this just truth of reality. It is like the truth of reality. Life is change constantly, and it can be very challenging for the human brain, which is really wired for consistency, which is wired for safety, which is wired for certainty, to exist in a universe that is inherently uncertain, inherently moving all the time, inherently changing all the time. And we can get very stuck kind of in cognitive dissonance with the movement of life. And these mindfulness practices can really, really help us soften in and deal with change, the little changes on a daily basis, and then also to empower us for the bigger, more painful changes that happen in life when we lose things that we are attached to or care deeply about, loved ones or partners or jobs, or something that we were hoping to accomplish. These big moments in life where things change, and yet our wiring has us fighting that. And we can find a way to be able to meet life and this reality of life with more peace, with more ease, with more equanimity, with more loving kindness. And there is a tenet of Buddhist philosophy that is one of the cores in what is taught as, and again, this is not dogmatic. This is not like, this is how it is, and this, you better listen and you better believe it. It's an idea, and this is called impermanence, that reality is inherently impermanent, and you can actually sense and feel into that through your meditation practice. So instead of it being like, life is always changing, you better believe it, it's like, well, life is always changing, and this is the nature of reality, and we can start to touch into this through the experimentation of our meditation by turning towards direct experience, both inwardly and outwardly, and noticing how life is always moving. So if you take a moment right now to close your eyes and just touch in with your breath, just let your breath breathe on its own. You'll notice that the breath is moving. The breath is changing. Each breath is different than the last. And if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, the molecules are different. They're being transformed in your body from oxygen in inhaled air, used in your cells and recycled as carbon dioxide coming out the other way. There's a transformation that's happening, a very deep transformation that's happening with each breath. And as you follow the breath, you can start to directly sense this impermanence, this constant movement of life. And you can even imagine the recycling of cells that are happening in your body. Literally, tens of thousands of cells are dying every second. Tens of thousands of cells are being reborn every second. Your body is in a constant state of change. Blood is flowing, neurons are firing, life is moving, life is change. And as you focus on each breath, you can really feel into that. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so through our practice, we can directly touch into this reality of impermanence, and we can become more intimately understood with it. And this is one of the most beautiful practices and cultivations that we can work towards when it comes to embracing change that again is inevitable in life. Because when changes come, again, we have this, this very like nervous system reactivity. The brain wants to keep everything as it is. And yet life is constantly moving. So how do we manage the two? Well, we have to kind of feed one or the other. We can feed the stagnancy, we can feed the comfort of the brain, or we can feed our intimate connection to the truth of reality, the truth of impermanence, and find peace in that. Start to ride the waves of the breath, start to rest in this movement of life. And there's a beauty in that really supports our adaptability, supports our flexibility, supports the processes of loss and grief and the big changes that come and can kind of rock our world. So there's kind of three go-to actions or qualities to really lean into when big change is here. And these are things that we can cultivate on a day-to-day basis. And you can think about simply doing this through the breath, but how we do it with the breath is how we do it with big experiences. How we do something on a simple microcosmic level is also how we're able to apply it on a macrocosmic level. The first is when change is here, is to rest into that sense of change. The same way you can just rest into the flow of the breath, rest into the movement of life. A really beautiful way to do this is to sit in nature and just watch nature move. That's one of the ways that I really connect with that intimately. Watching the trees move, especially if there's wind, my goodness, does that just directly touch on the energy and the movement of life? But you see the birds flying, you see all this activity. Can you just rest in that? Can you rest in the movement of life? The second is this quality of trust. It's letting yourself just fall back into life, letting life move through you, letting life move at its own pace, knowing that control, you cannot control the massive force of inertia that is life. You can't not breathe. The sea of oxygen around you is finding its way into your body. You can't fight off the forces of change. And so can we just sit back and trust that change is a part of the process, part of life, and that we can adapt if we are able to rest and trust that it'll all work out. Finally, openness. And this has this quality, has kind of sub qualities of wonder and curiosity, being open to what's on the other side of change. And this one I think is really challenging for brainy folks like myself who are constantly thinking and trying to figure out the future. And this is, I think, a direct symptom manifestation of that, kind of conflict between the brain that wants comfort and certainty and an uncertain, constantly changing universe and existence, constantly trying to think ahead, figure out what's going to happen tomorrow, how's it going to work, how's it going to work, how's it going to work, which is so exhausting to try to figure it all out when you just can't know. You just can't know. So there's this openness, this curiosity of like, and if you've seen the sweater that I have, one of my favorite sweaters, it says, "What if it all works out?" This kind of what if energy, this openness to, okay, things are shifting. I wonder what this next breath is going to be like. I wonder what this next moment is going to be like. Can I rest skillfully in the movement of life? Can I trust that it's all going to be okay? And especially when we bring in the self-compassion and the loving kindness of mindfulness, we have more resources to be able to manage whatever life brings us. So that really can support our trust. And then this openness to, being curious to what is. And the final kind of offering to this is, I think, a really skillful phrase that can support our openness. And it's this idea of, I don't know. I don't know. What's going to happen? I don't know. Call this don't know mind. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. Yes, of course, we have routines and kind of a sense of, well, I'm going to go to work at this time. I'm going to do this for this. And then I've got this plan. Yeah, of course, there is a sense of certainty. But truly, we don't know the depth and the breadth of what experience will be like in the future. And when we can rest, trust, and be open, we can arrive into this really peaceful place of, I don't know, and that's okay. I'm gonna ride the wave. I'm gonna ride this wave of life and change and just surrender. And as we cultivate these qualities, not only do we feel more peace in daily life, but we're also able to meet what can be the very world rocking force of big change and big loss when it comes, having prepared ourselves for the impermanence of reality, the impermanence of whatever job or project we're working on, whatever relationship we're in. We're all born and we will all pass in this body. And as we find peace and impermanence more and more in our daily lives, we become more adaptable and flexible and resilient to some of the more challenging changes in life.